All right. Oh my gosh. See, God had a great plan in mind, didn't he, tonight? You know, when you give lemons, you make lemonade. So thank you guys for bearing with me. Hey, everybody, I'm not Terry. Even though it says it on the computer or my iPad, it's Jamie Cantrell, and welcome to the Team Up call. Our fearless leader is, I hope, enjoying herself on a much wonderful, needed vacation, a holiday, as she calls it. And so a few weeks ago, when she asked me to host the call tonight, I said, absolutely. When she said I'd be introducing Dr. Kathy Crockett, I said, yeah, are you kidding? So I have a story about Kathy. And of course, I'll go through her bio. Some of you know her. For those who don't, I'm glad you're on the call to get to know her. But Kathy is the kind of person that you want to be in her company. Not just because she's an extraordinary business mindset. She's full of grace and poise. She just does things in life the right way. But this woman has the biggest servant heart. Oh, gets me kind of teary thinking about it, of so many people. I think it was a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, Kathy, I was at a point I was really going for a push for NMD, and I was confused about the numbers. And to be honest, I still am. And Kathy was on a European vacation. Is this right, Kathy? And I didn't know at the time she was on a European vacation, and she stopped in the middle of her vacation and ran reports and helped me figure out my business plan. She didn't have to do that, but that's the kind of person, that's the kind of leadership that we have in this community. She blesses us. And so, of course, just giving a little of the biography here, of course, we are dealing with, I'm visiting with Dr. Kathy Crockett. She is a professor at Lubbock Christian University, has a precious family, wonderful husband, and two precious daughters who are in, one is in college and one is approaching college years. And so Kathy has just built a beautiful life for herself, being a beautiful human being. And the thing that Kathy is so humble, she won't tell you, she's wildly successful. And whatever she does in the students' lives she pours into her team that she pours into, in her ministries that she pours into. And of course, most of you have been led and touched by just the human being that she is. So without further ado, I wanted to turn over tonight's call to Kathy, and hopefully each of you took a moment to print out the handouts that she had attached. And if you don't worry, I'm sure she'll walk you through it all. But Kathy, thank you for blessing us with your time and talent tonight.
Oh, Jamie, thank you. You're so encouraging. And I just love seeing all your faces. I wish I could reach through the screen and hug you. Hey, Jerry. Hot little mama, new haircut. And then all of you, there's just so many of you that Henry, I'm seeing you on the boat, man. I wish I could reach up to Northeast Coast and give you a hug too. So all of your faces are just encouraging me. And I hope some of you I may not have met yet, but I love you anyway, because I probably know your names on a report somewhere. So I just am excited to have this chance to share with you guys. So with that being said, I actually figured out a way. I decided to share the screen so that the handout would actually be showing up for you while I'm talking about it. So if you don't mind, I'm going to do that since I've soaked in all of your faces here. And I'm hoping that that'll kind of help us work through everything. So hopefully you can see this okay. I've maximized it, I hope, enough that you'll be able to see this. So Terry talked to me. She was like, hey, can you share some things on the call? And I was like, well, I'd be happy to. And so I've actually shared this quite a bit. And I know a lot of you have already heard me do this talk before, but she was like, no, I want you to do it again, because it's kind of one of those things. I played basketball in high school, and I know Jamie played soccer. Well, let me just clarify here. I played basketball. Jamie basically almost won a national championship in Division I soccer at the collegiate level. So it's a little different. So, let's just make sure we're clear on that. But there's fundamentals in how you do life, I believe. And I believe this one piece has been a core piece of my puzzle that keeps me sane, that helps me kind of figure things out when kind of the rails fall off. Y'all may not hit the ditch at times, but there are times when I feel overwhelmed and I'm like, whoa, something is definitely off. And this tool has helped me over and over again. And so that's why I seem to keep coming back to this training. And that's why Terry wanted me to share this. So even if you've heard it before, she really wanted people who haven't heard it to hear it for the first time, and for many of us just to think about it all over again. So with that being said, I want us to remember, sometimes I can get so caught up and going for promotion or checking off my to-do list or being in task mode, that I forget that I'm a human being. I am not a machine. And as a human being, I have 4 key pieces of me that I really need to pay attention to. My mind is made to learn. My heart is made to love. My body is to live. And my spirit is to make a meaningful difference. And so let's think about that for a minute. So if you have these 4 tanks, not like the tank on a car, you know, there's the oil, there's the gas. I would say the fluid, but my husband would make fun of that. He goes, that's not legit fluid. It's not like that's going to make a problem. So he teases me about that. But there's different fluids in your car. I think there's brake fluid. I don't know. So just like a vehicle or any other things, there's different tanks that you have to watch, and they have to be full, or they at least have to have a healthy amount in them, or else something's not going to go as well. You know, if you're running low on gas, on fumes, your car's going to stop running, you know? And so you want to think about that we're not machines. We have pieces of us that need our attention. And so I want you to think about these things. For example, this is me. I actually thought about this today. If I was going to put a percentage to each one of these, and this is what I want to ask you to do right now. Think about each of these 4 areas in your life right now. And what percentage, what would the tank say? Is it half full? Is it a quarter full? Is it 3/4 full? Is it totally full? Where are you in these 4 areas of your life? So I thought about that a little bit, and my mind right now, I actually feel really good about that tank because I've read some great books lately. I'm a reader. I enjoy reading. I also finished the Brave Leaders program that our corporate office offered to us, and it was very good. I also have gotten to do some trainings. I'm getting to do the training tonight, getting ready for that. We're gearing up for the Horseshoe Bay training coming up and next week. Ooh, I'll see some of you in just a few days. Yay. So I feel like my mind has definitely been challenged. It's working. It's being fed. I'm paying attention to that part of wanting to learn and get better and use my skills and be able to share. So that's a good thing. And then my heart, love, well, we had our Team Brave retreat about a few weeks ago, and that just always fills me up with relationships. I love it. And so the heart piece of relationship is really good for me right now. And also knowing I'm going to see people coming up this weekend at Horseshoe Bay. Callie's home from college and camp, her summer job. So she's been home for a few days. So I'm loving on her. So relationship-wise, I'm feeling really good. We celebrated my husband's birthday over the weekend with lots of friends. So relationship-wise, my tank was filled. I topped it off over the weekend. And then my body is to live. You know, what am I doing? Am I eating healthy? Well, maybe not so much over the weekend with all the birthday parties, you know. Trying to stay consistent with exercise, water, sleeping well, those types of things. I think I'm doing okay there. Definitely have some room for improvement with eating. Sugar's my vice. And I'm not officially shredding right now, so I can tell that maybe sugar's a little out of balance. And I really do want to do yoga. I keep making this joke, and maybe if I keep bringing it up it's been years. I've been talking about this for years, literally. Y'all need to help me. I need an intervention, people, to help me actually do yoga. So I keep thinking I need to be more flexible. I cannot touch my toes without bending my knees. I bend my knees backward anyway. So that's something I want to work on. So that tank, I would say, is not as full as I wish it were. And then spirit, for me, I'm a Christian, so my faith is very important to me. And so I try to make sure that that's a part of my life is, you know, for me as a Christian, I like to pray. I really enjoy reading my Bible. That's important to me. But I also, a bigger piece of that too, is I want to make sure that my life has purpose and that what I am investing my energy in and my efforts in, I want to sleep well at night knowing that I'm being a good steward of what I've been given. I'm trying to give back, you know, trying to be thoughtful about what does it look like? We can use our time and energy in so many ways, and our culture will take it. If we don't plan for it, it'll be taken and used up in all kinds of ways. And so I try to be really intentional about thinking about that. And so I think right now my spirit tank is pretty full. I want to say, thankfully, this summer I've had some breaks. I've had some time to reflect and rest and journal. And so I feel like I'm in a good place there. So that was an example of how I went line by line to think about where I am in those 4 areas of my life. So I hope as I was talking, you were thinking about where you are. And if your tanks aren't at least 80%, I want to encourage you to think about what it would look like to get that tank filled a little bit more. You know, I know someone on this call just had a really great week with her little hot husband. And so I know her tank is full. Other people, maybe, I know Henry and Jen Hageman, they love their boat. And so, you know, they're probably filled with getting to enjoy that. You know, we all have different things that fuel us. What fuels you may not fuel me. And what fuels me may not fuel you. So you want to make sure that you're thoughtful about what that is for you. Because remember, if any one of those 4 tanks is low, it's going to affect your performance. It's going to affect your feelings of being overwhelmed or unsure or uncertain or being held back, and you're not going to function like you want to. I know people who are rock star professionals. They have wonderful relationships. They're making huge, meaningful contributions. Their spirit tank is full, but they're ignoring their health and they have a heart attack. Well, life stops. It doesn't matter how full those other 3 tanks are. That one tank takes over all of them, right? Same thing with the other things. You know, people who are great professionals, they exercise and eat right. They make meaningful differences, but they're ignoring their families because they're so busy and they're not choosing well. Well, life will stop when, you know, their spouse says, I want a divorce, or their kids don't want to be around them anymore. You know, that takes over your whole life. So it's very important that we think about that we're a whole person. Super, super important. So check your tanks, make needed adjustments. We have choices we can make to fill those back up. Now I'm going to scroll down a little bit to this whole idea that time is a quantity and a quality. The quantity is just kind of what we all know. So if someone said, hey, like when Terry called me up and said, hey, get out your calendar, can you do a call on this day? What do? Typically, we get out our calendar, we look to see if there's an open slot, and typically we'll ask, well, how long is the call? How much time do I need? What do I need to block out? So it's very natural for us to think through that in a quantitative way. And so the reality is you have 168 hours in a week. And just like a bank account, you want to think about, where's your money going? Well, where's your time going? Do you have a realistic idea of where those 168 hours are going? Hopefully you're sleeping, you know, 56 hours of that hopefully is sleep. I know some of you especially are laughing at that. No names will be said. But think about, are you resting? How much time, you know, if your family is important to you, how many hours are you spending with them? You know, if exercise is important, do you carve out 5-10 hours a week to exercise? Do you carve out time to do what matters to you? And we all have different seasons of life that we're in. And so it's going to look really different for a lot of us. So you can't compare it to someone else's. Don't ever do that. But really have kind of a reality check. And my executive coach years ago made me do this, and I hated it. And I didn't even have time to do the dumb exercise. And so when I sent it to her, she goes, well, clearly you have math skill problems because it added up to 216 hours. And I'm like, oh, guess I didn't have time to add it up. And so then she went on from there. So you can imagine how I failed miserably the first time I did this exercise. But I want to challenge you to do it. And I even teased, I was like, well, which week? Every week's different. So I was kind of trying to beg off to not have to do it. She said, good grief, just pick one. And so just pick one. Pick one and actually, and maybe you track a week. Maybe you don't want to think backwards. Maybe you actually track it. Maybe you have a little journal and you're tracking it as you go for this week and see where your time's going. And just like sometimes we're surprised where our money goes, you might be a little surprised with where some of your time is going. So that's the quantitative piece. Now, the idea of chess versus checkers, chess is a little bit more strategic. Checkers is a fun game and there's some strategy involved and you have to still be pretty savvy to play that game. But chess means you're up in your game. You're being even more strategic. You're paying even more attention to the nuances of the game, the different movements, the different strategies. And that's what I compare to the quality piece of time. Just like I said earlier, we think about the quantity, like when Terry said, hey, can you do this call this time? This is how long it goes. But do you ever think about when someone asks you to do something, do you ever stop yourself and think about how much energy is that going to take? That's a whole nother conversation because not all time is treated the same. Kind of like money. You know, if you invest your money into the stock market, you might get a different return depending on what you invested in. Sometimes it takes your money and you lose money. Sometimes you kind of just break even, but at least it broke even, you didn't lose anything. And then sometimes you make extra money. You get even more interest. That's kind of like time. And in this handout right here, you'll see the red means, hey, how'd I get that big arrow? Anyway, okay, so the red means that it's very draining. You actually, when you see something like that on your calendar, you just dread it. You're like, ugh, it's just going to take energy away from you. Yellow means it's a good return. It's not necessarily extra energy, but it's, for me, I consider that laundry. I don't like laundry. It's not like I get really excited about it, but I really feel like it's productive because I need clean clothes. So that's okay. That can be yellow. And then green means that not only did you invest, but you got energy back. So a good example, y'all, some of you have heard me say before, have you ever been with a really good friend who you haven't seen in a while, and y'all are just talking, and you look up and 2 hours just blew by and it felt like 5 minutes and you're like, oh my word, I wish we could be here all day. Have you ever been with someone for 5 minutes and you need to go lay down because you're exhausted? You just are totally worn out and you're like, I can't take it. You're driving me crazy. You have now taken every last ounce of energy out of my body and I have to go lay down now. So I think we can all relate, hopefully, to that. Maybe it's not just me. But we need to be thoughtful about how things are taking our energy, not just the actual quantity of time it's taking. And this is the trick. This is what the aha for me is that we all have the 168 hours. That is a non-negotiable thing. That's how God created it. That's how it's going. You know, we got 168 hours. It doesn't matter if you're a bazillionaire or if you're not. We all have, that levels the playing field. We all have 168 hours. But what if we could be more savvy about how that time affects our energy, and we are able to have a lot more green in our life than red in our life? What a more joyful, wholehearted existence you would have, full of joy. And on top of that, instead of feeling drained by things, you're actually energized and you're so full of energy and that it's just flowing out of you to other people. And that's really what I feel like the shiny people of Juice Plus do. We are healthy, we're vibrant, we have energy to give instead of laying flat, worn out, you know. And the reality is we're always going to have red in our lives, whether it may be a curveball, unexpected curveball that comes. It may be, you know, maybe taking care of an aging parent. You may have a sick child. You may have a really stressful work situation that you have to be in for now until you can get past it. You know, there's a lot of things that go on that are red, but the key is there's two things I do with reds in my life. One is I try really hard to get some perspective, because sometimes if I can get some perspective, it can turn into a yellow. Or maybe if a friend will do the red with me, I may dread it. So hey, that's what I need. Yoga's not a red, but maybe if I had a friend dragging me there that I wanted to talk to, we would talk through the whole thing and it would seem like it's going by fast, right? So do you see how sometimes you can shift your thinking or make something that you're dreading less dreadful by maybe doing it with a friend or changing your thoughts around it? Sometimes red things are just hard. Sometimes life's just hard. It just is. And so in those cases, I try to insulate or buffer the reds with greens around it. So if you know that the third Thursday of every month is going to be super stressful because of something in your life or a meeting you have to go to or a deadline that always seems to come up that day, maybe you know that night you need maybe not to cook. Or maybe you need to say, honey, you take the kids, I'm going to go take a hot bubble bath, or whatever it is for you. You need to be aware of what are the greens in your life that you need to insert on those hard days. When you're drained and worn out and stressed out and you cannot take one more thing, where do you turn to fill your tank back up? What are the green things that you can have that will help you? Maybe it's a phone call with a friend that just helps you process it. Maybe it's just taking a walk outside in nature. What I've noticed is sometimes if I will just take 3 deep breaths. So let's just take one right now. Ready? Did that feel good? We run around breathing so shallow. Rachel Barkley, if you're on this call, I don't know if y'all have seen her yoga videos. I'm trying to get into that. I thought surely if I follow Rachel on Facebook and her talking about yoga, that would get me in the mood, but I'm still working on it. So think about what the greens are. What is something that can get you out of the red or can refuel you after you experienced a red? So I know we may not have time on this call, but I really do want to challenge you to think about your life in general, but your Juice Plus business. What is something in your Juice Plus business that's kind of a fundamental thing that we need to do that you may know that you just drag your feet on it? And usually if we drag our feet on, this is what's so funny to me. This is what I do. If I really don't want to do something, I'm going to drag my feet. So this pain and agony drags on forever versus just doing it. Rip the Band-Aid off and get her done, you know? But I drag it out because I'm kind of dreading it. I just look at it on my calendar and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. But let's just get it done. Let's change our perspective. Let's get that piece done, knowing that right around the corner or right after that, I get to go do this. Don't we do that with our kids? Hey, if you clean your room, we'll go to the park. Hey, if you eat your broccoli, I might let you have a popsicle. I don't know, shred friendly, of course. But, think about, what is it for you? If we do that with our kids and grandkids, why can't we do that with ourselves? If we have a red on our calendar, sometimes people talk about do the hard things first. But hard things aren't always red. I want to say that. Sometimes hard things can actually be greens because the challenge of it inspires you because you're determined. I am doing it. I am getting this last order. I have 10 minutes and I'm getting one more order in or whatever it is. So it's not always a red, but know yourself. It takes a lot of self-awareness to know how these types of things affect you. And as a leader for your team, a really advanced, even more of a chess play is to talk to your team members. A really great leader will ask their team, talk to me about what the reds are. People joke with me all the time about the numbers. I have no idea why I like the numbers. I'm a nerdy business professor. I guess that's why. But, when Jamie said, hey, do you want to look at some numbers on my year? I felt like it was part of my vacation. Sure, it's kind of fun. Why not? But other people, they think about having to figure out the numbers and they just want to go give up. They just want to go, gag. I don't want to have to do it. But I know that if I have to really create a beautiful social media post or a flyer, it will take me 5 days. I can holler at Lisa or Nicole or Cassie or other people and they can whip it out in 30 seconds. And they actually enjoy it. It's actually a green for them. Something that is a red for me that I'm dreading and just agonizing over and it's taken me forever because I'm not naturally gifted at it. They can whip out in no time at all and they love it. Those crazy people love that kind of stuff. And so why would I not be smart as a leader and use the gifts and talents on my team instead of beating myself up for not being good at everything? Why not leverage our gifts and talents? And if everyone can have a piece of this business that they love to do and get to do that, it raises our entire boat up. All of our tanks rise. All of us. And so do you see how that's taking a quantitative thing and shifting it and leveraging it well? Instead of me spending 3 hours on a post, I might say, hey, let me look at your numbers. You create this post. We both spend 5 minutes and then we both have all this free time to go do other things. So be savvy, be smart, play chess. The next time you start looking at your calendar and agreeing to events and agreeing to things that get on your calendar, try to do another layer of discernment and figure out the energy piece. And if you know it's not going to be your favorite thing, but you need to do it, put a green in there right after it. Another thing I just want to say real quickly is put some cushion in your schedule. I was horrible, and this is where my executive coach just totally had to sit on top of me and make me. She said, Kathy, you have no margin in your schedule, no cushion at all. If one domino falls sideways, the rest of your day is shot and you are a stressed out mess. And it just totally wrecks your whole day. And so many people are affected by that because you are so tightly scheduled. One day I couldn't even go visit a friend of mine in the hospital. And that's what really got my attention. I was like, how could I possibly have scheduled myself? And I was like training. It's not like I could not show up to something. I was the trainer. And so she said, we don't always know what's coming, but one thing we know for sure is unexpected things come. Curveballs come. We may not know what they look like. We may not know when, but one thing we know for sure is that unexpected things are going to come. So I actually started having time in my schedule that I blocked off that said unexpected. I literally had to do that or else I would have filled it with something else. Another thing I had to do with this energy piece, I actually booked myself to speak at 8 o'clock one morning because it was open. The whole day was wide open. It was a Monday morning. I was like, oh, it's wide open. Cool, sure. What I didn't pay attention to at the time, the night before I was getting back from China, from a trip with, 20 students. China. Actually, that's not true. I got back like Saturday, sort of, but it was Sunday, China time, Saturday. Anyway, I was completely jet lagged. I was exhausted. I had no time to prep. It was horrible, but I could not show up. I'd made a commitment. It was horrible. I mean, I kind of gutted it out, but it was clearly not my best work. I was bloodshot eyes and black rings under my eyes. I was exhausted. What in the world was I thinking? So right after that, I got a different calendar. So right now on my wall is a year where I can put big chunks of time where I can block it out. I also have tried to get a lot smarter about looking at the weekend before or looking at if someone's asking me to train on a weekend, I look at like 2 or 3 weekends on either side of it. because I would book multiple weekends in a row and realize I have not been home on a weekend in 6 weeks. Oh my goodness, what was I thinking? But when it's open, you're just looking at this little window and not looking at a bigger picture. You can get yourself in trouble. So just one last thing I want to share very quickly, tied into this energy idea. And it's just a really, and again, it's in the handout, so you can read this. So that's why I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with it. The next time you're feeling overwhelmed and something's kind of got a hold of you and is really draining your energy, can you ever feel yourself when you have a hole in your boat and you're sinking fast and you've got to plug the hole or else it's going to be bad? It's going to be really bad. I try to catch my thoughts in that, and I ask myself, okay, what part of this do I have influence over and can control? And what part of it is I'm just concerned about and it's getting a hold of me because I'm worried, I'm getting anxious. I don't know what's going to happen. For example, a great example of this could be, okay, I really want to be QNMD. And I have some parts of that I can do personally, but a lot of it relies on my team. You know, it could also be a 2000 plus. If you're going for the 2000 plus summer surge promotion right now, you can get customers, but you need a teammate to get that extra bonus. And so you're working hard, you're doing all the right things. Nobody's interested in joining your team. What do? You know, you're concerned about that because that's a goal you have. You're very concerned about it. But if you're so wrapped up in the concern of, well, nobody wants to do it, I must be a terrible person, they must think I'm crazy, oh my goodness, is this really for me after all? Maybe this wasn't really something I should have done to begin with. What was I thinking? You know, we can really go down this crazy path of a story we're telling ourselves. And so instead, if you can catch yourself doing that and get back to what can I control? What can I influence? Well, one thing you can influence is you can keep sharing, share with more people, keep asking, keep those conversations, keep living the mission, keep going. And our company is so gracious to let us have options to restart our clocks. So if for some reason the timing didn't work out the first time, you can always use a different window of time if you need to. And so I just want to challenge you to really catch yourself in those moments when you are the circle of concern has a hold of you so tightly and it's consuming all of your focus and energy that your influence actually is shrinking. It's actually getting smaller. But if you can catch yourself and say, you know what, I cannot control other people. I cannot control that nobody showed up at me for this event. And I'm just going to talk to myself for about 30 minutes so I can say we had the event. I can't control that. But what I can control is my attitude. I can control my effort. I can control making sure I'm telling myself the truth, not the lies of I'm not enough, I must be horrible, this isn't for me, whatever that is. And so this is actually I think on the Facebook pages, the link to this is there so you can get this. But this tool also, I almost use this every day. I have 2 teenage daughters, and I can't tell you how often we come back to this. And it's comforting in some ways because there's so much craziness in life that comes at us that we cannot control it. And we don't always even have influence over it. We're concerned about it, but we have to always remember what is our part? What is our part that we can control? And we're going to have to let go of some of that other stuff. So that was really quick, but I wanted to end so that we could record that. Jamie, if you have any questions, feel free to email me or message me on Facebook or whatever, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. So I hope that's helpful. I know some of you have heard that before, but don't forget to create some space to look at those percentages on your tanks, get those tanks filled up, and then really think about your Juice Plus business, the red, yellows, and greens, and try to get a few more greens on there and maybe shift some of those reds to yellows. And the reds, they are what they are. Let's get some greens to buffer them and catch yourself in those thoughts of being too consumed by what we can't control or influence.
Oh, Kathy Crockett, I have a page of notes, and I think some of the biggest takeaways: no margin in my schedule, too tightly scheduled. I can completely relate. So what a blessing, because it's just making me reevaluate. I know so many of you have nuggets from Kathy's training tonight. If you feel so led, post your greatest takeaway on the Team Up call. Let it be inspiring to other people. And I know Kathy will be with us again, giving up her time and talents next Monday night. Wow. Thank you, Kathy. Great personal takeaways. And thank you just for being you.
Well, thanks for having me on the call, guys. It's good to see your faces.
I'm going to unmute everybody, and you guys can tell Kathy thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy. Thank you, Kathy.
See you soon. Those people going to worship.